Chapter 7, A Worrisome Time. What's the matter with you? Amara hissed as Mr. Gardner turned away. Jack just shrugged. You knew how to do that problem. Why didn't you do it? Just leave me alone. Jack stretched his legs out under the table and kicked Aaron's chair leg, and again, and then again. Hey, stop it, Aaron muttered. I can tell it's you, Jack. Mr. Gardner's watching you, Lily said in a sing-song voice. You'll get in trouble. She sounded very excited about it. Jack stopped kicking Aaron's chair and wrapped his feet around the legs of his own chair instead. He felt like he needed to glue himself down. It had been the same ever since yesterday. Mom and Maddie kept talking about dogs at the rescue and which ones would make good pets. They both seemed really excited about it. Mom was even thinking about adopting Pug. All he wanted to do was yell, "No, it has to be Daisy. I only want Daisy." How could they even think he'd ever be happy with a different dog? He made a strange noise, a sort of choking, gasping noise, and Amara looked at him sharply. Are you going to be sick? Jack shook his head, but he wasn't actually sure. He felt awful. Here, Amara handed him her water bottle, and he gulped from it gratefully. He wasn't going to be sick. It was just that he really, really wanted to cry, he realized. But he couldn't. Not here. Not in front of everybody. Is something wrong with Daisy? Amara whispered, and Jack stared at her. How did you know? Amara shrugged. Hunch. You've been so much better at school since you started helping at the rescue and spending all that time with her. Now you've gone back to being weird and moody again. Who's Daisy? Lily leaned over to ask. Ooh, does Jack have a girlfriend? Amara scowled at her. Grow up, she snapped. What are you, 5? And Lily's face turned scarlet. Jack put his hand over his mouth to stop himself from laughing out loud. Thanks, he muttered to Amara. My mom said we could adopt a dog. Amara shook her head. I don't get it. That's fantastic. Why are you upset? Then she stared down at her math problems like it was the most interesting thing she'd ever seen. Mr. Gardner's glaring at us, she said out the side of her mouth. Tell me at recess, okay? At recess, Amara dragged Jack over to one of the benches and handed him half her banana. I don't understand. I thought you really wanted a dog. Jack shook his head gloomily and squished the end of the banana between his fingers. He couldn't face eating it. Nope. I want Daisy. So why can't you adopt her? Is she still too little? You could wait a while, though, couldn't you? It isn't that. Mom says we need to get an older dog who's calm. Well-behaved. No puppies because they're too hyper. What, so your mom doesn't want a dog version of you? Amara gave a snort. Jack sighed. Yeah. I'm sorry. Amara's face fell. That was meant to be a joke. It's true, though. But you've been a lot better, Amara pointed out. Mr. Gardner told your mom how good you've been. I heard him. That's all because of Daisy. Doesn't your mom understand that? Why didn't you tell her? I don't know. I didn't think she'd listen. She said not a puppy. Jack handed the banana back to Amara and wrapped his arms tightly around his middle, as if he was giving himself a hug. Yes, but Daisy's not just any puppy, is she? Amara shook her head. You have to tell her. Didn't your sister say anything? Maddie knows how special Daisy is. Yeah. Jack leaned back against the bench. Maybe Mom would listen to Maddie, he admitted. Maddie, and me, and you, Amara said firmly. Your sister's taking you to the rescue again this afternoon, isn't she? So you have to explain everything to her. You can both tell your mom later, and I'll come over and tell her too. Jack nodded slowly. Maybe Amara was right. He hadn't told Mom how he felt about Daisy. He'd just expected her to know. He had to speak up. Daisy's nose was just poking out from under her bed, but she pulled the bed up close to the wire door so she could see what was happening. She was watching for Jack. Every time anyone had walked down the hallway that day, she'd wriggled out a little more to see who it was, but it was never him. Daisy knew that usually Jack came later on, but still, she couldn't help hoping. She was starting to feel hungry for dinner now, and he often arrived just before dinner time. Soon. There was some scuffling and footsteps, and Daisy scooted out from under the bed to look down the hallway. There was a boy. Her ears pricked up hopefully. No, not Jack yet. It was Susan with a group of people Daisy didn't know. We do have one adorable young puppy, actually, but she's a little nervous. I'm not sure she's ready for a busy family home just yet. The group moved off toward the main reception area, and Daisy slumped down on the floor again. When was he going to come? Then her tail hunched between her legs, and a shudder ran over her. What if he didn't come back? What if he'd left her, like the people who'd thrown her out of the car? Daisy was almost sure that Jack was hers, but they had been her people too. She whimpered and scratched at the blue treat mat under her paws to catch the smell of food, and Jack, and home. Jack ran down the hallway to the corner where Daisy's pen was. He had a strange feeling in his stomach, as if she might have disappeared. All afternoon he'd been daydreaming, whenever Mr. Gardner wasn't watching anyway, thinking about what would happen after he'd explained everything to Mom. He had to make her understand. Amara was right. He'd imagined running around the park with Daisy, or Daisy asleep on his lap while he was doing his homework or watching TV. Maybe even asleep on the end of his bed. It all felt so real. It was too good to be true. No, there she was, scratching wildly at the side of her pen. She was so excited that she was actually squeaking. Did you miss me? Jack asked her, laughing. He caught her paw through the wire pen. Hot little paws with hard black nails. I missed you. Let me look at you. It felt as if he was looking at her properly for the first time. Now that there was a chance, just a chance, that she might be his dog. She was so beautiful, even when she was jumping up and down and then darting off to whirl around her pen and flinging herself back to lick frantically at his fingers. Shh, shh, Jack said gently. It's okay, Daisy. It's okay. There were footsteps at the other end of the hallway, and he saw Susan walking toward him with Maddie behind her. Susan had a clipboard and a pen. She was tapping the pen against her teeth as if she was thinking. Hello, how's she doing, Jack? Good. She was a little excited, but she's calming down now. Jack looked back at Daisy, who was standing close to the wire, looking uncertain. I was just talking to a family who was looking for a puppy, Susan explained. Or a young dog, anyway, she sighed. I did try to suggest one of our beautiful older dogs, but they wanted a dog who'd be really active. Anyway, she smiled at Jack. I wondered about Daisy. What do you both think? She looked over at Maddie. You've done so much work socializing her, especially you, Jack. Do you think she'd be okay with a family? It's actually only one boy, and he's 10, so he's not too young. Maddie nodded eagerly. I think they'd have to take things slowly, but yes, Daisy's such a beautiful dog. She deserves a loving home. No, Jack yelped, and Daisy gave a worried whine and scraped one front paw against the concrete. Maddie frowned at him. Hey, gently. I'm sorry. Jack swallowed hard. He had to get this right. He had to make Susan and Maddie understand. He'd meant to talk to Mom first, but he couldn't let Susan give Daisy to somebody else, not his dog. He crouched down and let Daisy snuffle at his fingers while he tried to think of what to say. Did Maddie tell you that our mom said we could adopt a dog? He asked Susan. She nodded, smiling. Yes, it's been wonderful news. I know Maddie's been desperate to have one for a while, and you're just such a dog person, Jack. Jack tried to smile back, but his face felt stiff. Maybe. I'm not sure if I'm really a dog person. I mean, I only want Daisy. Oh. Maddie started to shake her head. But Mom said, I know. Jack broke in quickly. We have to have an older dog. He nodded at Susan. But Mom's saying that because he faltered. Sometimes I'm not very sensible. Except I am. I could be, if it was Daisy. All that reading to her, I worked really hard. And she's so much better. We're good for each other. Susan beamed at him and reached down to pat his shoulder. I know you are. You've been amazing with her. And you can tell that she has bonded with you. She glanced at Maddie. That was actually something I was a little worried about, whether Daisy would ever build up such a good relationship with her new owner. But I couldn't stop Jack from helping her, not when it was making such a difference. Jack nodded eagerly. Could you tell my mom that we don't need an older dog? He looked hopefully at Maddie. You like her too, don't you? Maddie crouched down and looked at the little white face peering back at them anxiously through the wire. Silly question, she said lovingly, and then laughed as Daisy dabbed a cold black nose against her hand. Okay, now we just have to convince Mom.